All right, what's up, everyone? My name is Denzel. If you don't know me, I'm an ENFJ, life, personal development, and relationship coach, Enneagram 9 Wing 1. And today I'm going to be talking to you about a thing that I like to call ENFJ telepathic bonding. Let's get it. So, if you know anything about ENFJs, you know the dichotomies extroverted, intuitive, feeling, judger, then you know that these are people who are usually kind of gregarious. They're very insightful. They like to pretty much really dig deep into their friendships. And I think the biggest thing for ENFJs is building intimacy. They love to build intimacy with the people that they love, and they love to help foster intimacy amongst the people that they have influence with. I think that they teach a lot about love in essence, and they try to understand human interpersonal dynamics on the most nuanced levels so that they can be able to help other people who might not be able to understand them as much to experience and get the richest things from their human experiences. And so, with all of that, then ENFJs tend to make really great, relationship coaches. They love to give relationship advice. They love to be the best friend that they can possibly be to the people that they actually love and care for. They can sometimes have a God complex of thinking that they know what's best for other people, and we'll probably get into a little bit more about that. Or you can check out one of my older videos on the ENFJ God complex, where I go very in depth with that. But in this video, we're talking about the way that an ENFJ can actually create a telepathic bond with you. Now, of course, when I say the word telepathy, then there's a few things that are coming to mind over here. It's not really, at least not entirely, this psychic thing that's going on in an energetic field of waves and stuff like that that's like moving in a mystical and magical sense, but there is a little bit of that at play, at least from what I've observed and from what I believe. When it comes to the very like the astral spiritual realm, I do believe in vibrations. I do believe in connections that souls can have with each other, and I do believe that when an ENFJ has a specific kind of bond with a person that was not just forged, through hard work or like pragma, but was already predetermined through a soulship, maybe from a past life of some sort, or just some sort of like kindred soul, kindred spirit kind of dynamic that they even then further build upon, then this kind of telepathic bond becomes even stronger. So what exactly is this telepathic bond that I'm talking about? Like I said, ENFJs love to build intimacy with the people that they feel closest to, and they love to help other people build intimacy. Now, the way that ENFJs, especially at their best, build intimacy is by pretty much asking lots of questions. I love from Dear Kristen's videos, she loves to kind of portray ENFJs in this sense of like always wanting to unpack what's going on underneath the surface for other people.
Can I go home, please? Sorry, this tends to happen when you let the teas talk for too long. What? Most importantly, Kristen, with all of your claimed personality awareness, shouldn't you know better than to imply that ENFJs are just perpetually unpacking and psychoanalyzing everyone? In fact, one might argue that perhaps it points to you having some subconscious insecurity about being unpacked, that you are now projecting onto other people, which you have a responsibility not to do.
Are you trying to unpack why she makes you unpack everything? Are you trying to unpack her need to unpack?
But sometimes it's like the ENFJ is so focused on people and getting other people's needs met and like understanding other people's psychology that sometimes they're not always doing that back to themselves, especially with the introverted intuition function being their parent function. John Beebe believes that our auxiliary functions are usually used to like help other people, and then we have to learn to be able to gear that back in. So an ENFJ might be able to help you know like, oh yeah, let's help you with your 5-year plan. But then it's like when it comes to their own 5-year plan, then it's like, like, and so with that, it becomes a work in progress where they're getting more in tune and deep in with themselves. And they eventually learn that the more that they get in tune with themselves and they learn more about themselves, the more substance that they'll even have to be able to put on the table and build intimacy with those that they want to build intimacy with. So as ENFJs are really building this intimacy with other people, then one of the things, like I said, they like to do is like ask questions. And as they're asking these questions, then they're actually building a map in their mind. It's like their FE, NI, SE, and TI are all working together to construct this framework of some sort to help the ENFJ understand the person on a much deeper level. And I like to describe it almost like an artificial intelligence of some sort that's just constantly building and building upon itself so that it can better learn the person that the ENFJ has like chosen as a target. And now it's so tapped in that it knows people's baseline. So people often talk about how FE, the ENFJ's dominant function of extroverted feeling, is usually used to like lift up the mood, and like if it sees you happy, if it sees that somebody's like sad or whatever, or people are sad, then it's trying to like lighten everyone up. And the kind of image that I get in mind is like Leslie Knope from Parks and Rec, that kind of like peppy energy. Well, honestly speaking, and this is no offense to them, it's just the truth that I've noticed, I've actually seen that kind of behavior more with SFJs, like ESFJs and ISFJs even. But when it comes to NFJs, then I think that what they usually do is they track your baseline emotion, right? They track your baseline emotion and your baseline mood of things. And then from there, once they know like, okay, this is usually this person's baseline, they just keep a pulse on that. So now when you dip below that baseline a little bit too far, then they will try to lift up your mood, but they'll try to lift it up back to the baseline. They're not going to try to lift it up too high. They're not going to try to lift it up like, they're not going to like leave it down too low. They're just trying to get everybody back to their baseline, and they're keeping tabs and a pulse on your baseline mood. And everyone has different baseline moods. If I, for example, as an ENFJ, know that you're someone who's usually very peppy and like excitable and all of that, and then you come and you're a little bit more zenned out and chill for whatever reason, I'm gonna be like, oh, this is a shift, and I notice it. I'm probably not the only person who notices it. Obviously ENFJs don't have the monopoly on being able to read other people's emotions and stuff like that. But when it comes to stuff like that, then yeah, I might like notice that, and I might be like, okay, let's try to unpack and figure out why have you dipped down this low? And a lot of times ENFJs, due to that FE and that NI as their top two functions, they absorb a lot of people's emotions around them. So I actually did a video with Joyce Meng on our channel, The Knife Show. We actually haven't posted on there in a while. Life has been busy, and also we're trying to come up and make sure that we have like actually good content to be able to give to you guys. So if you want to go ahead and subscribe, we have a lot of good stuff over there, and we are not done yet. In fact, I'm going to be meeting her in real life again for a second time next month, I believe, and that should be, probably a good time where we can record something in person. But anyway, we did a video together on empath ethics. And in that video, we talked a lot about how it's like to be an NFJ who's absorbing other people's emotions and things of that nature, and how a lot of times as an NFJ, we can actually avoid letting people know that we've noticed a shift in their emotions, even though we feel it, because it can come off invasive. People don't like when they feel like you're reading their minds or that you're in their head. And, like I said, when you take this to like a more psychological level and you're just understanding in NI, at its base form, then it's really like understanding the pattern of your own mind and then being able to further understand the patterns of other people's minds in a way. And then when you add FE to that, then FE, like I said, I do believe that there are vibrations in the world, and you can tap into certain people's vibrations and you can just feel waves. And there's examples of this. My wife, Jamila, who's an ISFP, she's an ISFP Enneagram 4 and a self-preservation 4 at that. So still waters run really deep with this one when it comes to her emotions, for example. And when it gets to that, there have been a lot of times where I will notice the different spikes in her emotions randomly. And it's come to a point now after knowing her for 10 years, and obviously for the first, I think 4, I did not know anything about typology. Then it was confusing to always feel other people's emotions. Now this woman who I'm super close to, I'm always feeling her emotions. I'd ask her what's wrong, and then it's nothing is wrong. And I'm feeling her emotions like this Professor Xavier type of person, no, I feel it. Something is wrong. Why aren't you talking to me about this? Nope. I came to realize, well, actually, I didn't realize it on my own. I actually went to Personality Hacker. We had a whole thing about it. If you get their romance life path thing program, I don't know, I probably have a little banner telling you, shout out to you, Personality Hacker. They have this thing where they're pretty much talking about romantic compatibilities, and they interviewed people of every type, couples of every type, to talk about their experiences and stuff like that. For me, with Jamila, they actually interviewed me and they were oh, actually what's going on is that for her as an ISFP, she's dealing with a lot of deep emotions that as an FE Dom, I'm not really used to. And so because I sense those emotions from her and I'm man, oh, something is wrong. Blah. But for her, she's no, it's not. I've definitely dealt with a lot worse. I do this. This is my strength, And so for her, it's just oh, this is her strength and she's able to, handle this. So it's not there's anything wrong with her. But for me, I'm oh, man. And I would try to change her back to her baseline at that point because it's also affecting me. But then once I'm not able to do that, I'm okay, well, I got to get away from this energy here. And when you're better again, then I'm going to come back, And so that's an example of the telepathic bond in that way, and really being able to sense other people's emotions in that sense. There was also another time where, and she can testify to this, and I don't like to share stories like this too often because it could be a little bit, people be oh, okay, and it's a little bit woo-woo, but there was a time where I was even over at her parents' house with her and we were talking, and right in the middle of us talking, then I was your mom is coming home right now and she's kind of pissed off. And she's what? And then before you know it, the garage opens up and she's Jamila's looking at me, and then she came in and her mother was upset. Now, I don't remember what she was upset about, but she was upset about something. And Jamila was how the heck? And so, yeah, stuff like that happens a lot. And if you're an ENFJ, you might be able to relate. I think INFJs can also relate to an extent with stuff like this. And especially when you're close to a person, the closer that you are to a person as an ENFJ, the more that you feel this telepathic bond with them, it's almost they become so much a part of you that once something once they start dipping, then you sense it, it's on your radar even from a long distance, and it's just So there's been times where I've literally hit up certain friends yo, are you good? I had a dream about you, or I just felt something tug at me intuitively, yo, I need to hit you up, or I felt you're almost on Dragon Ball Z where they'll be Gohan's energy is decreasing, it's so faint. It's kind of like that. And again, I know it sounds so weird, but talk to an ENFJ, talk to an INFJ even, it's a thing. And the closer that you are to a person, the more you're able to sense and build an idea of where their actual baseline might be. And a lot of this is further built, once again, through that intimacy and through asking lots of questions and really coming to understand a person on a deeper level. And because it's mainly also dependent on the closer that you are to the ENFJ, the more tapped in they'll be with you, then also know they can't be this way with everyone. I kind of once again see it as Professor Xavier, where he's like tapped into his mutants and he's able to like, sense them, which by the way, I believe that Professor Charles Xavier from the XMen movies is an ENFJ. Now when it comes to like the XMen show, he is probably most likely more of an INFJ, but like from the movies, I believe that he's an ENFJ, especially when you look at his younger years. And I did a whole video on that, breaking it down using like clips from the movies and everything. If you want to check that out, then check it out. But yeah, that's kind of how I see it. Like, and then when Professor Xavier actually puts on the helmet, Cerebra, I believe was the helmet's name and everything, then he's able to like tap into like everyone in the world. But then that's when it becomes so heavy. That's why ENFJs can often have like the weight of the world on their shoulders, because they feel like, man, like this is a lot, like, and I have to really like almost like zone in. I have to build boundaries for like, okay, I have to like cut off my psychic bonds with a lot of people in this way. And I have to like mainly focus it on these people. And then from there, like I focus it the most on these people. And then the outer layers like this, and then move it from there. And that takes like a lot of time and work. I feel like a lot of ENFJs don't even get to learn how to do that over time. But that is definitely a thing. And I once again believe that INFJs are also like really prone to this as well. And since it takes a lot of FE work to be able to like really put forth those boundaries, and ENFJs being FE DOMs, they sort of do tend to learn this early, like when they're like young, because they're like, whoa, okay. And they might be helping everyone, but they also like learn quickly by putting themselves out in the world so frequently, like, I can't be just a host, a sitting duck to everyone's energy. And so I really have to limit and I have to find out what the heck I'm doing over here with this energy so I can be able to put a limit on it. But then in certain areas, I can, learn to open it up and really like open it up in these instances, because it might help me make a difference and a change. And so that is part of what I believe, or what I like to call like mind mapping. So the ENFJ really explores the soul, the heart, and the mind of a person that they actually like are really close to, that they actually really find interesting, that they really deeply love. And then the more that they get attached to that person, then the deeper that telepathic bond becomes, to the point where now you'll have ENFJs who are just hitting you up out of nowhere. And sometimes even before you know that you have a problem with you, then they might be able to detect it. There's been a shift. Now, a lot of ENFJs, once again, I've talked to them and it's like they ignore their intuition to hit up that friend. If you are an ENFJ watching, even if you're an INFJ watching, don't ignore that intuition. When you feel that, when something probes you, when that quiet voice hits you, when you get that divine download, like, hey, check on this friend real quick. Like, hey, like you get that dream about someone, like there's no harm in just checking on them, You never know what might happen when you do that. Now, don't be invasive. Once again, check out that empath ethics video. You can't be like, well, no, I feel your emotions and you're definitely like feeling something. It's a little bit too invasive. People don't like feeling like you're reading their minds, you're in their private, space like that. Like, let them have it. But if they are willing to share with you, then go ahead and reach out. Let them always know that the door is open for them to be able to come and talk to you if you have the capacity. Because always make sure to remember that, you have to make sure that your cup is full too, and you have to be able to know your boundaries as well. And if you have an ENFJ in your life, then try and talk to them about this phenomenon, gather some patterns. Maybe it might be able to help you to be able to better empathize with them and understand them, especially when they are being a little bit what you might think to be like invasive, when they're like speaking to you about certain ideas, or like, they're asking you about certain things, or they're trying to unpack certain things about you in a way. That's actually like, again, a form of them trying to like get to know you on a deeper level and love you more, and ask them the questions right back. A lot of times ENFJs don't usually share what they're also thinking. Like, they might ask you a question, but then they don't ask, like they won't tell you theirs a lot of times, because you simply didn't ask. For us, a lot of times we don't want to be the person who's just talking your ear off. And so we kind of wait to be invited to be able to figure out like, oh, okay, you know, like this is, you know, like you're actually interested in hearing about this. And it's not just me like forcing small talk with you in some way, shape, or form, because it's really embarrassing when you realize that that's happening with somebody else. Like you're trying to like talk to them, and then you ask them this question, and then they answer, and then they didn't ask you back, but then you're like, okay, cool. Well, my favorite color, I don't know, you know, whatever it might be is, and they're just thinking them like in their heads, like, why is this person telling me this? So, yeah, if you are a friend of an ENFJ, parent of an ENFJ, relative, whatever, try and ask them about this, you know, and keep this in mind. It might be able to help you out. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like, subscribe, turn on that bell button so that you'll be able to hear whenever I do have a new video that's coming out. Drop comments if you have any agreements, disagreements, concerns. If you're interested in coaching, be able to, like, you can hit me up at my website, denzelmensah.com, and I'd be happy to talk to you about anything and everything under the sun. That way you can book sessions, either to find out what personality type that you actually are, or just, you know, shoot the feces. Yeah, that's all that I got for y'all today. Hopefully this made sense, and don't forget, you matter. Done. Thank you for taking the time to watch that video, and if you enjoyed that, please like and subscribe. It actually really helps out my channel a lot, so that more people who actually care about what I want to say can actually find me a lot more easier. Also, if you did enjoy it, then maybe you'll enjoy a lot of my other content as well, so be sure to check out some of my playlists where you'll be able to find a lot of my older videos and older content. And last but not least, if you would like any profiling sessions or coaching sessions, be sure to check out denzelmensah.com, where you'll be able to book me and you'll see the rest of my services. But thanks again, and have a great day.